Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're going to be playing more of the Double Down seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which our deck gets doubled, and whenever we play a unit, we will play a random unit of the same provision cost from our deck as well. And today we're going to be using a Northern Realms deck that uses all those units to generate as many charges as possible. Let's give it a look. So today we'll be using a Stockpile Northern Realms deck, so we'll be able to give our units an additional charge every other turn. And that's the idea of the deck: generate as many charges as possible and use them to either deal damage or boost our units. So I'll flip through the deck and show you what it looks like. We have Oneiromancy to play the cards we want to play. Dandelion because he will play himself from our deck and then allow us to play 4 cards at a minimum on our turn. Yrden to reset a row. Royal Decree, give us a little bit more flexibility with the units that we play. Donimir for defending. Priscilla to give tons of charges. Use those charges to give boosts. Boost whenever we gain charges. Use those charges to deal damage. Use those charges to boost. General boosting, technically not through charges. Give additional boosts. Use those charges to deal damage. General boost, again, not technically tied to charges. Use those charges to deal damage. And then we start getting to the low provision cost cards at the end that we probably don't really want to use. But Tridam Infantry is important because this is the target of our boost, and whenever we do that boost on Tridam Infantry, it will deal damage in the process. So there's a look at the deck. Like I said, the focus is very much on generating those charges and then either dealing damage or boosting ourselves with those charges. And it's been a couple of seasonal events since Northern Realms was last one of the go-to factions, so I'm looking forward to giving it a shot. Okay, so we're going against Scoia'tael here, and we'll go first. And we have a ton of Spores, but that's not really a card that we want to be getting a ton of, so let's swap those out. And Crow's Eye is not that great either. There's a non-zero chance that they will have poison with Scoia'tael. But if they're using Mahakam Forge, then I'm guessing, if anything, this might be dwarves, and they don't really have poison. So, I mean, swap out either of these, really. Temerian Drummer could at least work with Tridam Infantry, and we go first here. So let's think about what we want to set up here. Spellweaver for damage is certainly an option, and we can use the Adept to give it additional charges. Tridam Infantry with Temerian Drummer, also not bad. Donimir of Troy to protect. I mean, we don't have any cards that are super important to protect, like, say, a Corvo right now, so don't have an obvious place to put you at the moment. I think, why don't we lead off with a little bit of damage from a Spellweaver? And we'll get an Archer as well. And we might even use a tactic here to get you up a little bit higher. Give you additional charges, and this way you're generating as many charges as possible, and we're trying to keep you safe so that you can accumulate them. And Malena is a little bit concerning, at least for this Archer. Means that it will probably not be able to do much of anything. And 2 Malenas? Okay, this will be a problem if we were to, say, play Corvo. Fortunately, that's not on the agenda, at least not for this round. But if it's just the archers that get moved, we can deal with that. Now, the Adept, that does become a bit of a problem as well. That's more so something that we were going to rely on in this round. Could use Donimir to at least temporarily block the movement to a certain extent, but with 2 Malenas, use one of them to move Donimir, use the second one to move whichever other card you want to move, so it's really not enough to slow them down. And in that case, that does perhaps mean that we want to instead focus more on the cards for which the row does not matter much, that being Tridam Infantry, Temerian Drummer, or maybe other Spellweaver. Let's get you down here, or maybe even just temporarily throw down the Adept. Nah, let's go Spellweaver first here. And we'll get, okay, this Temerian Drummer, sure. And we are close to being able to remove one of the Malenas, and that could be a bit of a game changer for us. Pride Matron will boost one of them, probably the one in the range row. And then, yeah, this is more so what I was expecting. To see a bunch of dwarves. You're going to move the Temerian Drummer, which makes some sense, because now it doesn't have anyone to boost, at least not at the moment. But we can certainly change that. Now, if we do this, we will get Zeal, so we can instantly give additional charges to, say, this or this Spellweaver. They'll also get a charge when we play a mage. We have our leader ability as well. So just how many charges is that? That's already 1, 2, 3, 4 from playing this, and then 5 from this, and that is enough to remove 1 Malena and not quite another. Maybe we focus on Tridam Infantry first, and then the Aretuza Adept after that, once we can more reliably say that, okay, we can get rid of the Malenas. So 1 down. We'd like to get rid of the other one, and then we'd be able to, say, play this Aretuza Adept safely. But this could become a little bit tricky if they start moving their own units to apply the boost to Malena. Okay, and again, they're going to move Temerian Drummer. But at this stage, okay, lots of damage, yes. But if we were to play you, would get 1, 2, 3 charges, which is not quite enough. Could play Temerian Drummer next to one of these Tridam Infantries and hope that we end up happening to target Malena, but that's not really a reliable solution. Vissegerd in some ways is perhaps just as likely to help us out. Royal Decree is also potentially a way to bail ourselves out here, depending on what we're looking to get. Could go with Nenneke and just get the 4 boosts out there on a Tridam Infantry and see where that leaves us. Maybe not a terrible idea. Let's give that a shot. It's going to take a little bit of time to do it, though. And I cannot find Nenneke. Where have you gone? There you are. We are almost certainly not going to have time for this. Especially if we get our second Nenneke out there. Go. Quickly. Quickly. Use all the charges you can. And it auto-targets the other Nenneke at the end of our turn because we didn't have time to actually hit the Tridam Infantry here. Now, we did apply 1 damage to Malena, which is somewhat significant because now if we play the Aretuza Adept, that would be enough to destroy it with our charges on our Spellweavers. But they, of course, can use Malena to move somebody here, and that's probably going to be one of our Nennekes. Which is another reason why I wanted to use all those charges immediately, but just did not quite have the time to do so. So they actually moved their own unit instead. And they have set up a fair bit of movement here, now with Dryad Matrons plus the Cat Witcher. So we probably want this round to end on the soon side. And okay, now we get a bunch of Aretuza Adepts, which means we absolutely have enough charges now. So where do we want to spend them? I was thinking Malena. Now we may have enough stuff set up that it's not going to matter much, but okay, let's just get rid of you. And let's start boosting you guys and just see where that damage happens to land and adapt accordingly. Because now we can say get rid of the Dobleton Sentry is one of the key sources of their power. Then might save this charge here. And potentially on our next turn use as many charges as we can to get rid of either a Matron or a Cat Witcher. They're still playing. They have 25-point deficit to make up here, but they have another of those Dobleton Sentries, so got rid of one of them, but they're coming back here. And another Cat Witcher. Okay, yeah, so this is turning into another strong engine here. Got rid of a little bit of its firepower, but they brought it back here. We are technically still holding on to a lead. I mean, we do have an engine of our own set up at the moment, so something to be said for all of our charge generation and damage or boosts. Technically speaking, giving charges to Nenneke and then boosting Tridam Infantry is a little bit more efficient because we're getting both a boost and 1 damage out of it. Problem is the damage is random, so we can't deliberately target a specific card for removal purposes. But we might just settle for that here and maybe go Temerian Drummer, get a little bit more boosts on you, and we are running out of space in the range row, which means this is almost certainly going to be the last stuff that we want to do. Last turn we want to take in this round, so again, let's boost you guys and just see where that damage lands and then adapt accordingly. Do we have enough damage to remove you? I don't think we do. But we're just going to deal the damage we can deal because we ideally pass on our next turn. And Geralt of Rivia will destroy one of those Tridam Infantries. That is one thing we could have perhaps been a little more careful of, trying to avoid going up to 9 strength, but Zoltan Shive in some ways is actually more concerning with that resilience. Is also enough, when everything is said and done, especially after all this movement, for them to retake the lead here. So this is a bit concerning, because at this point, we don't have great plays remaining. Our defender is mostly just a 7-point play at this point. Vissegerd, we don't have too many boosted units left at the moment, so that's actually not very many charges. We do suddenly have a little bit more space in our range row, so that's something, I suppose. We could play the Archer, and with all of our charges, is that enough to continue putting on the pressure? I think we give it a shot here. Of course, don't really have enough time to do the math, and this pains me, though. This pains me, because we can't actually put you where we want to put you, though at the very least, you are still a mage, so you are still giving some charges to the Spellweavers, and technically, like I said, that's not really who we should be giving those charges to. It is technically more efficient to give it to Nenneke, but on that occasion, okay, well, now you're just going to auto-target Nenneke. Okay, thank you, game. Again, ran out of time on our turn, so it will auto-target for us, but also just deliberately chose you to give the charge because we weren't going to have time to make it all the way over to Nenneke for that boost, and now if you're going to use Brought the Heat Wave to remove a card, you're going with some pretty big plays here just to stay ahead. So yes, you are winning uneven here. I don't really think we're going to have what it takes to get the job done here. The problem is, if we don't in round 1, then they have some carryover going into round 2, so it's not going to be a simple, straightforward round 2 victory. So we are in a bit of a tough spot here. I think we go Vissegerd because we don't have much choice but to give it a shot. Dandelion helps a lot, actually. In some ways, we very much wish that could have happened earlier. We actually don't have anyone that we really want to target with those boosts anymore, so no longer is it the case that we really want to be boosting or giving those charges to the Nennekes. Time when we have time to do it, it's no longer helpful. Time when we didn't have time to do it, it was optimal. Okay. And the Malcolm Defender, if it's boosted, will continue to boost itself, but I'm getting the sense that they are now starting to run out of their better cards. They will continue to get some value out of their movement, because we've not really been able to shut off that engine. Not entirely, at least. So at this point, how are we looking? We still think we can pass them here? Spores, I mean, if we are going all the way in this round, which is starting to seem like we may, then Spores is definitely best as our last card, because Catwitcher will continue to get boosted every turn. So I think in that case it means we're going Donimir here. And we'll get, oh man, get Priscilla, who is a fantastic card, yes, especially for all of our charges. But the problem is, it's a little late. It's a little late for all that. So, okay, now we do actually have, what, 5 damage, which is not enough to get rid of any of their biggest cards here, any of their big engines. So we just deal... Oh, hold on, but it is. Except it is. I forgot about Vissegerd. That was not really who we should have been targeting with that last point of damage, but we're hoping that we've dissuaded them from playing a card here. Yeah, okay. So we take round 1. And we did have to play one more card than them, which normally we'd be okay with. The problem is, because they have the resilience, they actually don't need to play anything going into round 2. So this may end up staying as a 1-card disadvantage all the way into round 3. Okay, we drew into the Drummer, which is decent. Crow's Eye, not so great. And Corvo, love that. Let's get rid of Spores. Spellweaver is okay. Crow's Eye and a Strenger, okay. We have lots of boosts. We'd love to have a target, though. And like I was saying, ideally, we would normally pass immediately here. They have the carryover from Zoltan having resilience in round 1. I think we still need to pass here, because we don't really have much chance to pull this off when they have both Zoltan and 1-card advantage. So we can at least remove Zoltan from the equation if we immediately pass and go into round 3. Okay, so we got an Aretuza Adept, we got Spores, we got Crow's Eye. Now, I think we might actually be out of Tridam Infantry. No, we aren't. Okay. That could be huge if we could get one of them, because we want to target for our boosts. And Royal Decree could give us just that. Spores into our defender, okay. Yeah, I think this can work. We're going to have to get the job done with a 1-card disadvantage, but we'll see if we can make it happen. And Dunka, first turn is strong, especially double Dunka, dare I say. Okay, and what we're going for is we're going defender first, just to play it safe here. And Priscilla will be good setup for next turn when we end up playing Corvo. That'll be our primary booster. Okay, what? It's going to turn into the defender, right? You've no other option. There'll be a Donimir. And you have another defender. Okay, we actually don't need to target you. I mean, outside of with the Spellweaver. That's not a huge deal, because mostly we're going to be targeting ourselves, mainly using Corvo's charges on Tridam Infantry. So that's fine. Let's get you down here, though. And let's get the other one down here as well. And let's start giving out those charges. And ideally what we do is we actually save these charges and use them all on Tridam Infantry once it gets out there. That way we're getting both the boosts and the damage from those boosts. Does mean we're going to have a ton of charges to use at the very end, and we may not have time to do that, so it's a bit of a risk. But as long as we know that that's the plan in advance, then we can try to speed through that on our last turn. Doublethon of Sentry, potentially more movements. Yes. Now we know that we've gotten rid of your Melenas, which in many ways would have been the key counter to what we're doing here. That and the actual Guerrilla Tactics leader ability. Because without those, it's going to be hard for you to move the Corvos, and that's the real risk. Let's see, in terms of maximizing the long-term potential here, I think the answer is Aretuza Adept. Either that or Anna Strenger and immediately just using 1 charge to boost her. May not be a bad idea. Let's actually try this, because if we play this Anna Strenger, we may get another from our deck, in which case I think this is almost certainly going to be the way to go. That we do? Okay. So deliberately gonna try to stagger them a bit. And let's just do a little bit of boosting here. And don't forget to give these charges as well. So that means we'll have a little bit more value every turn. So I like that. They'll continue to play the Cat Witchers. And we are getting vulnerable to something like, say, a Geralt Yrden in our range row. Now, we'll probably try to play our Tridam Infantry in our melee row, and that's where all of our boosts will go, so that will somewhat counter that concern. Also could have potentially put the Anna Strangers in the melee row in anticipation of that, but that means that they aren't going to do much of anything for every other turn that we have them out. So, similar story with the Temerian Drummers. Let's go with the Adept now, in effort to charge up the Corvos and this Drummer. Do we deliberately put it down in the melee row in anticipation of the Tridam Infantry, or do we get more long-term value out of playing you here? I think we stick with this in the range row, but it is somewhat of a risk. And don't forget these. I mean, the charges are getting pretty ginormous at this point. So yes, I am getting concerned that, you know, are we really going to have time to use 30 charges on our last turn? Maybe not. Okay, the trap is a little concerning, because I have no idea what that is, but I'm thinking we use our Spellweaver as our bait, because if it deals 5 damage, we lose the Spellweaver. This is our most disposable card. If it deals damage based on the provision cost, 5 damage is not a huge deal either. So let's do this, and we'll see what happens. I'm get another Spellweaver. Based on the positioning there and how it did not trigger, I'm thinking either it's the 2 damage to everyone in a row, which would be pretty effective here, or boost these cards when we pass. Also seems possible. Okay, and do this, and do this. And, I mean, I'm tempted to start dishing out some more of these boosts just in case. Because, I mean, at this point, we're at, what, 34 charges? 3 and 4 is not going to have any option but to hit our defender right now. It will have Zeal, so you have a Dryad out here. Nilva's is a little late to have that happen. She will have immunity, but not many Scoia'tael cards remaining for you to play. Yeah, okay, it was 2 damage to everyone, which does make Strangers significantly weaker, and maybe that's a good card for us to start to put the some of the charges into. So let's do some of this here, first and foremost. Then with these charges, let's at least make sure these Strangers are inspired. That way we can also, like I said, make it so that we aren't using quite as many charges on our last turn. And some of this. And let's put down Temerian Drummer in the melee row, because at this point, it doesn't make a huge difference. We'll at least still have someone to be boosting, and then more damage, okay? Anyone in particular that we want to get rid of? I mean, not really, because the only thing we can hit are defenders. So, I mean, at this point, we can at least a little bit break through that. Okay, and so next turn is Royal Decree into the Tridam Infantry, and we immediately do that and try to use as many of those charges as we possibly can. It's going to be tough to squeeze all that in one turn. Swordmaster, okay. Of course, they will still have one card to play here because they had a card advantage. So, at the moment they are in the lead, but this is the big play that we were saving up for. So a lot of it is going to come down to this. Okay, sure, they get rid of a Spellweaver, but here's the thing. Waiting for the movement, then go. Okay, you. Here. Other one. Doesn't matter where. Technically should have gone there, but that's okay. Mostly just want to make sure we have time for this. Go to town on this Tridam Infantry, and then technically, I mean, if we can, should split a little bit in case they have some other form of removal. That way, you know, we don't have all of our strength in one card, and you know, this is going, dare I say, surprisingly quickly. Then again, we have more charges on our other Corvo, so maybe not so much, and we still can give more charges still. So, give this a shot here. And now, we'll just use as many boosts as we can on you. Come on! Still, 20 plus charges to go. The animation takes a little bit longer anytime it destroys the unit. It is unfortunate, because that kind of delay is the kind of delay that might be the difference between, well, we're not going to get all of our charges out here, but this is actually probably more than I expected us to get, to be brutally honest with you. And at this point, well, it's going to auto-target our last few, sure. At least it targeted our own unit. Get a little bit more from the Strangers and Temerian Drummers, and they may have one card remaining here, but we do have a 70-ish point lead, so I like that. If they can reset or remove any card outright, then we are potentially in trouble, though. So what is this last card? I don't think that's going to do it for them. I think that big last-minute play is going to be enough here. They will get a doo-doo out of their deck. What will they transform into? A defender. But it's not enough. We will still take it with the huge last-minute Corvo onto the Tridam Infantries for the win. Okay, so going against a fellow Northern Realms player here, and they'll go first. And we have tons of Spellweavers and tons of Adepts, so that's interesting. We have a lot of Tridam Infantries as well, and we may not want all of these Tridam Infantries because I think we only have one in our deck in that case. I think it's our only 4 provision cost units, so that means the last Tridam Infantry is actually not going to have a card that we play from our deck to go along with it, and, well, there it is. I swear this always happens in this seasonal event. I always end up trying to swap out one unit and then immediately get the other one from our deck to replace it. Okay, and they're going with... Ooh, interesting. They'll get boosted when they have their shield on, and then they'll get their other one out of their deck. I'm thinking in that case, we probably go and prioritize the damage rather than the boost, so we might end up saving Corvo for round 2 or 3 in that case, and focus on combining you with Tridam Infantry and our Temerian Drummer, whereas this round will be more so the Spellweavers and the Adepts, in order to try to get rid of these shields. So let's do something about that now. And here is the nice combo that we like to have. We have some of them already in our hand, of course. And this is another instance of, technically speaking, by the time we end up playing all these cards, we may no longer have additional copies to play from our deck, because I'm not sure we have any other 5 provision cost units to go along with them. But let's see, they're going commandos. Ooh, interesting. I was experimenting with them a little bit earlier, and they're fun, getting a bazillion of them, yes, but at the same time, they take up a ton of space, and you're already able to fill your rows in this seasonal event without the commandos. So filling those rows with only 4 strength units with no other super special abilities other than continuing to fill up those rows, I think you can probably do better. But anyways, let's continue to load on the Spellweavers here. And, oh, we do have the Archers. Okay, so that's good. That means we'll continue to get more cards coming out of our deck. And let's continue to give you a bunch of charges. And we definitely want to remove these shields. Are we concerned about getting rid of the Blue Stripes Commando? Because in some ways I'm actually not. I would dump the Witcher Ranger. That's simple enough to destroy. Then maybe we'll even save this additional charge here. Okay, now here come the scouts. Yes. Make more of your commandos, but the thing is, you'll do that, and then you're going to end up filling your entire row with those commandos. Not quite your entire row, but there they are. But this is kind of what I'm getting at, is short of playing a short round 1, just doesn't have a lot of potential. Does set you up for some interesting things, perhaps in rounds 2 and or 3, but we'll see. Go for you, and then, okay, the Temerian Drummers, I suppose this is another one of our 5 provision cost units, so we have a lot of them, come to think of it, but this is not really the kind of unit that we're looking for here, because this is more so the type of unit we want to combine with the Tridam Infantry. But anyways, got a bunch of charges now, so at this stage, I think we just, let's deliberately allow them to flood their melee row, and not remove any of those guys. And instead, focus on getting rid of these. Okay, and Cintrian Royal Guard, another unit that is helpful to get a bunch of. And with 2 of them, they will, of course, get boosted a bit. Now, I'm pretty sure we forgot to use our leader ability on at least perhaps our previous turn, but let's continue to give the charges here, and let's continue to give more of the charges here. Now, Priscilla is technically the best card we have at giving those charges, yes, but at the same time, I'm deliberately trying to save some of our best combos for Corvo plus Tridam Infantry. Dandelion Poet does work well with them as well. So, that is why that is the case here. But, let's see, we'd like to remove guys, because that is actually significant for you to have multiple of them. More so, perhaps, than the commandos. And we won't be able to destroy this one, but we'll be able to weaken it, at least. I swear, these Spellweavers take forever to use their zap. Feels like it takes longer than the Redanian Archer. Okay. And the Ranger, is there a specific card that you're trying to pass over those boosts to? Right, and here come other Royal Guards, yes. All the more reason for us to try to destroy those as soon as you play them. And here come all of our charges now. But here's the tricky thing, is after deliberately trying to refrain from playing our better cards, it means that now we're perhaps stuck playing them late on in the round when they don't have as much value, so it is perhaps coming back to bite us a bit here. Might want to go with Dandelion, because although it is great to combine with Corvo, we could use a bit of a boost here. Of course, they played one more card than us, but let's give this a shot. Dandelion into Royal Decree, which, to tell you the truth, I'm not entirely sure what we want to get out of it. I mean, do we get some of our other cards that benefit from the charges? Maybe. Maybe we start to play those. Okay, we're running out of time here, though. This is concerning. This is actually very concerning. Please, no, no. We don't have time to use them. That's the other downside. Okay, but they are still playing here, which in some ways is fortunate, because now we have set up more aggressively, and we will actually have time to use this stuff. However, course, we were going to be able to destroy at least one Cintrian Royal Guard, if not two, on our previous turn, if we had but a little bit more time. So, now let us start giving those charges. And, you know, we'll experiment a little bit here and see if the Redanian Archer is, in fact, any quicker at applying the damages. So, let's start removing you. The thing that we would have benefited from having done our previous turn, but again, just did not quite have the time. And now, with one more card, I don't really want to have to resort to playing Corvo this late on in a round, but none of these other cards are all that effective here. Maybe we go with the Drummer, just get another 5 provision cost card out of our deck, because one of those will be the Archer. And there we see, at the end of our turn, we actually have just barely leapfrogged them. They'll play their Tridam Infantry, and they'll get a Scout out of that. Now, they don't really have much in the way of boosts here. We get another Blue Stripes Commando, sure, but I think we have much more of a strong long-term setup than they do right now. We'll get our Tridam Infantries down here, because at this point, that's basically the only thing we can do. So, let's load up. And I actually, despite saying that I was going to take note of whether the Archer is quicker than the Spellweaver, I did not really take mental note of it after all. So, we'll see here. Let's continue to reduce you. And now you have no more room in your melee row. So I'm not concerned about that. Let's get rid of the Arbalest, because there is a chance that may be able to get more charges going forward. But we'd, in many ways, like for this round to end here. Okay, they are playing, and they're going with Dandelion, which, similar to what we were saying we wanted to do earlier, perhaps they were deliberately saving that as one of their better cards, trying to use it in round 2 or 3. But late on in a round is not a great time to put that to use, and it's not enough for them to pass us here. So we are a card up and still in the lead. That means we definitely pass here. And we have a little bit of passive boosts and passive damage as well to further increase that gap. And, ooh, okay, Siri is clever. I'll give you that. In fact, 2 of them, oh, very clever. All right, I will admit, I absolutely did not see that coming. Yes, it does mean that at least you would have normally been 2 cards down, but you will draw back both of those series. Neither will be on even cards here, but we still take the round 1 win, so I think we take that. And the other fortunate thing is we did manage to hold on to Corvo. We drew into Dandelion, which is a good synergy to go along with Corvo, and an Oneiromancy is fantastic. So I like all that. Vissegerd is damaged with the charges. That's not bad either. Tridam Infantry will, of course, be the target for those boosts. I think we can certainly deal with this. So my question here would be, do we start off with Corvo, or do we use Oneiromancy first and do something like get our Donimir out to block Corvo? Because that's certainly the safer option. Maybe we go that route here. Technically does mean that's 1 less turn to get charges with Corvo. So in terms of putting up points, it's not quite as good. But hey, if we get Priscilla out here in advance, that's helpful. And they're going Tridam Infantry first, which, sure, can be the target of the boost, but in some ways is not really the card that you want to be leading off with. So I think now is a good time to get Corvo down, and get our other Corvo out as well. And so they will immediately start generating those charges, and we'll give additional charges to them, like so. And technically, if we're trying to perfectly optimize this round, then we actually save all these charges for our Tridam Infantry to get damage out of those boosts. So, and then a Strenger is a good card to play in between those 2 Tridam Infantries. As long as you can boost her, she will boost both of those Tridams. Oh, but that's not really how you want to do that. I mean, sure, they'll boost each other, and now, by extension, they'll boost to both sides, but ideally you get an Strenger on one side and a Temerian Drummer on the other to double boost each Tridam Infantry. But our Corvos can definitely outdo that. Now I think next comes Dandelion. And Vissegerd from our deck is not bad either. I think, as much as it is tempting to hide all of our cards behind Donimir here, in interest of trying to avoid a Yrden, let's put Vissegerd in the melee row. And now we have tons of charges, yes. But again, in many ways, we're actually trying to save them. It's going to be hard to activate all those charges in one turn, but we're going to try. Okay, they have Sabrina Glevisig. Interesting. Tend not to see that. Also, hard to destroy it when it is protected behind a defender, although, well, I immediately eat my words, because, of course, you do have some random damage with Tridam Infantry that can go beyond the defender. But, that being said, 2 damage to everyone is not a huge deal. Our Corvos were big enough to avoid going down to that. And I think what we do here is let's go Spellweaver next. We're basically planning on playing this a full-length round. And, okay, you know, Temerian Drummer will help out with Tridam Infantry once we do get that down there. So let's go with this, and we'll, of course, give you more charges. Like so. And all of our other charges may remain unused. I mean, technically speaking, we could use Vissegerd to remove an Strenger or Tridam Infantry, which is not a bad idea to remove some of their stuff. But we did end up giving our Corvos the charges rather than you. Okay, and Ciri is back. Not going to do you much good if you end up losing this round, of course. Even if you get a second Ciri, because, well, we already won round 1. It was clever, and I wondered if you would just proceed to swap out those Ciris for a different card instead, but at least the first one you kept in hand. And they forfeit, because we had not only a lead, but at least 28 charges, if not more, to boost a Tridam Infantry. So we will take the victory. So there's a look at a charge-centric Northern Realms deck for this new seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to try out next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.